The day I was supposed to become someone's wife, I became a ghost instead. And when I came back from the dead 11 months later, I made damn sure everyone who buried me would choke on my resurrection. My name is Helena Duarte, and this is the story of how I disappeared in a wedding dress and returned in designer heels worth more than my ex-fiancé's entire sad existence. But let's rewind to the moment everything shattered. Because you need to understand what I walked away from to appreciate what I became. It was 3 days before my wedding. 3 days before I was supposed to marry Ricardo Mendez, the man I'd loved for 4 years. The man who proposed under the stars, promised me forever, called me his soulmate in front of everyone who mattered. I was in that blissful bride bubble where everything felt magical. The dress was perfect. The venue was booked. The flowers were ordered. My heart was full. I was at the final dress fitting when I realized I'd left my phone at Ricardo's apartment that morning. No big deal. We were getting married in 72 hours. What secrets could we possibly have? So I drove back to grab it, used my key, walked into his place calling his name. He wasn't home, but my phone was on the kitchen counter, and it was unlocked. And there, right on the screen, was a message thread I'd never seen before. Between Ricardo and someone saved as M. My hands went cold before my brain even processed what I was reading. But once I started, I couldn't stop. I scrolled up, and up, and up. Months of messages. Months of lies. And M wasn't some random woman. It was Mariana, my maid of honor, my best friend since college, the woman who helped me pick out my wedding dress. The messages were explicit. Detailed. Disgusting. But what destroyed me wasn't the affair itself. It was one specific conversation from 2 weeks earlier. Mariana had written, "Are you really going through with this wedding? Do you actually love her?" And Ricardo, the man who looked into my eyes every night and said I was his everything, responded, "Love her? I mean, she's nice. But let's be real, babe. I'm marrying her for the connections. Her family's business network is worth millions. Once I'm in, I'll have access to everything. We just need to be patient. After the wedding, we can keep doing this. She'll never know. She's too trusting. Too naive. It's almost cute how blind she is." Mariana replied with a laughing emoji. "You're terrible, but smart. When do I get to be more than the dirty secret? After I secure the family money. Then I'll figure out a clean exit. But for now, play your role. Be the supportive best friend. Smile at the wedding. Dance at the reception. You're good at pretending." I dropped the phone. Actually dropped it like it burned my hands. My legs gave out. I sat on his kitchen floor in my jeans and t-shirt, staring at nothing, feeling everything inside me crack and crumble and turn to ash. For years of building a life with someone who saw me as a business transaction. 4 years of loving someone who was counting my family's money while pretending to count his blessings. And Mariana. God, Mariana. The woman who sat with me through breakups before Ricardo, who held my hand when my grandmother died, who squealed when he proposed. She was planning her maid of honor speech while sleeping with my fiancé. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. But eventually, something inside me shifted. The grief turned to ice. The heartbreak crystallized into clarity. And I realized something that changed everything. I wasn't going to confront them. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg for explanations. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. I was going to do something they'd never expect from naive, trusting Helena. I was going to disappear. I took screenshots of everything. Every message. Every photo. Every disgusting word. Sent them to my personal email. Then I deleted the evidence from Ricardo's phone, put it back exactly where I found it, and walked out of that apartment for the last time. For the next 2 days, I played the perfect bride-to-be. Smiled at the rehearsal dinner. Laughed at Ricardo's jokes. Hugged Mariana and told her how grateful I was to have her by my side. They had no idea I was already gone. That the woman sitting across from them was just a ghost going through the motions. The wedding day arrived. I got up at dawn, did my hair and makeup myself, put on jeans and a jacket instead of my wedding dress. And while everyone was getting ready at the venue, while Ricardo was probably congratulating himself on his brilliant scheme, while Mariana was pretending to be excited for me, I emptied my bank account, grabbed my passport, and drove to the airport. I left everything behind. The dress hanging in the bridal suite, the rings on the dresser, a single note on the bed that said, "I know everything. Don't look for me. You'll never find me. And you'll never touch my family's money. Enjoy the empty altar." I boarded a plane to another city 6 hours away. Didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not my parents. Not my sister. No one. Because I needed to become someone else. Someone who couldn't be found. Someone who couldn't be manipulated. Someone who would never be naive again. Here's what nobody knew. What I'd never told Ricardo or Mariana or anyone. My grandmother, who passed away 2 years before, had left me an inheritance. A substantial one. But it was locked in a trust that I could only access under specific conditions. One of those conditions was starting my own business. Another was waiting until I turned 28, which I had just turned 3 months before the wedding. Ricardo knew my family had money. That's why he targeted me. But he had no idea about my personal inheritance because I never mentioned it. Never flaunted it. Never gave him a reason to see me as anything more than a bridge to my family's wealth. So while he was probably scrambling at the altar, making excuses to 300 confused wedding guests, explaining to my furious family why the bride vanished, I was in a small apartment in a city where nobody knew my name, planning my empire. I spent the first month just breathing, processing, healing. I saw a therapist twice a week, worked through the betrayal, the humiliation, the rage. Dr. Santos helped me understand that what happened wasn't about my worth. It was about their character, their emptiness, their greed. By month 2, I was ready to build. I'd always been passionate about sustainable fashion but never pursued it seriously because I was too busy supporting Ricardo's career, attending his events, playing the good girlfriend. But now I had time, money, and motivation fueled by spite and self-respect in equal measure. I researched, connected with manufacturers who specialized in eco-friendly materials, found designers who shared my vision, built the website, created a brand, worked 18-hour days because work was the only thing that made the pain quiet down. I called my company Renascida, which means reborn in Portuguese, because that's exactly what I was doing. Being reborn from the ashes of Helena, who almost married a fraud. By month 6, I launched my first collection. It sold out in 3 days. Fashion bloggers noticed. Magazines reached out. Suddenly, orders were flooding in faster than I could fulfill them. I hired a team, expanded production, opened a flagship store. The money I'd inherited was now tripling. My business was thriving. And I was becoming someone I actually recognized in the mirror. But I stayed hidden. Used my middle name Duarte for business instead of my full name. Kept a low profile on social media. Because I wasn't ready to face my old life yet. Wasn't ready for the questions. The pity. The gossip. I needed to be stronger first. Richer. More untouchable. By month 11, I was ready. I'd built something real. Something mine. Something nobody could take away or marry me for. I was financially independent, emotionally healed, and physically transformed. I cut my long hair into a sharp bob, started dressing in the clothes I designed, carried myself differently. I wasn't the soft, sweet Helena who trusted too easily anymore. I was sharp, strategic, and I didn't suffer fools. So I decided it was time to go home. Not to reclaim my old life, but to close that chapter properly. To show everyone exactly who I'd become. And to make sure Ricardo and Mariana understood what they lost. I flew back on a Friday afternoon. Checked into a luxury hotel instead of going to my family's house. Sent my mother a text. I'm alive. I'm well. I'll explain everything soon. I love you. She called immediately, crying, begging to see me. I told her to organize a family dinner for the next evening. Everyone should come, including extended family. I had something important to share. That night, I did my research, found out what happened after I left. Ricardo apparently told everyone I'd had a breakdown, that the wedding stress got to me, that he was worried sick and had tried everything to find me. He painted himself as the devastated fiancé abandoned at the altar. Mariana played the concerned best friend, posting on social media about how she hoped Helena was safe and prayed for her return. They were still together, by the way. Not publicly. But I hired a private investigator during month 8, just out of curiosity. Turns out they'd been seen together multiple times. Dinner dates. Weekend trips. They were just careful. Smart. Waiting for enough time to pass so they could find comfort in each other, without looking suspicious. It was almost funny how predictable they were. The dinner was set at my parents' estate. I arrived deliberately late. Wanted everyone seated. Wanted maximum impact. I wore a white silk suit I designed myself. Hair perfect. Makeup flawless. Heels that cost more than Ricardo's car. I looked expensive. Powerful. Untouchable. When I walked through those dining room doors, the room went silent. My mother gasped. My father stood up so fast his chair fell backward. My sister started crying. And there, sitting near the end of the table like the parasites they were Ricardo and Mariana. His face went white. Her mouth literally fell open. They looked at me like I was a ghost. And I smiled. Not a warm smile. A dangerous one. "Hello, everyone," I said calmly, taking the empty seat at the head of the table. "I'm sure you have questions. Let me answer them." My mother reached for my hand. "Helena, where have you been? We've been so worried. We tried everything to find you." "I know, Mom. And I'm sorry for the pain I caused. But I needed to disappear. I needed to become someone new. And I did." I looked around the table. At my family, who loved me. At the cousins and aunts and uncles who'd shown up for what they thought was just a regular dinner. And then my eyes landed on Ricardo and Mariana, who looked like they wanted to crawl under the table. "I'm sure Ricardo told you all a story about what happened," I continued, "about how I had a breakdown, how the wedding was too much, how I just ran away like a scared little girl who couldn't handle commitment." Ricardo started to speak, but I held up one finger. He shut his mouth. "That's not what happened," I said. "What actually happened is that 3 days before our wedding, I discovered messages between my fiancé and my maid of honor. Months of messages. Explicit ones. But more importantly, I discovered the truth about why Ricardo wanted to marry me. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the screenshots I'd saved. He wrote, and I quote, "I'm marrying her for the connections. Her family's business network is worth millions. Once I'm in, I'll have access to everything." He called me too trusting and naive. He told Mariana I'd never know about their affair because I was too blind to see it. The room exploded. My father stood up, face red with rage. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My sister started yelling at Ricardo, calling him things I'd never heard her say. Cousins were shouting. Aunts were gasping. It was chaos. But I stayed calm, kept my eyes on Ricardo, who looked like he might vomit. Mariana was crying, trying to leave, but my sister blocked the door. I left. I continued, raising my voice over the noise, because I realized something important. I realized that staying and fighting and trying to fix this would give you power over me. It would mean I still cared what you thought, what you did, whether you were sorry. But I didn't care. The moment I read those messages, you both became nothing to me. Less than nothing. I stood up, smoothing my suit. "So, I took the inheritance my grandmother left me, the one none of you knew about, and I built a business. A successful one. Renacida. Maybe you've heard of it. We were featured in Vogue last month. Our revenue this year will hit 8 million. I did that. Alone. Without anyone's connections. Without anyone's network. Just me and my vision and my refusal to let you destroy me." I walked toward the door, then turned back one last time. "Ricardo, Mariana, I want you to understand something. You didn't break me. You freed me. You showed me who you really were before I made the biggest mistake of my life. So thank you. Thank you for being exactly who you are. Because if you'd been better actors, I might have actually married you. And that would have been the real tragedy. I looked at my family.
I'm sorry you disappeared.
I'm sorry I scared you, but I needed to do this alone. I needed to prove to myself that I could survive without anyone saving me.
And I did.
I'm here now, stronger, richer, better, and I'm never letting anyone treat me like a transaction again. My mother was crying. My father looked proud and furious at the same time. My sister was still yelling at Mariana. It was messy and emotional and perfect. Ricardo finally found his voice. Helena, please, I was young and stupid. I made a mistake. We can fix this. I've changed. I never stopped loving you. I laughed. Actually laughed. You never started loving me, Ricardo. You loved the idea of what I could give you. But here's the plot twist you didn't see coming. I pulled out a document from my bag, walked over and dropped it in front of him. That's a lawsuit. For fraud and emotional damages. My lawyers assure me we have an excellent case, given the documented evidence of your intentional deception for financial gain. You wanted my family's money? Congratulations. You're going to pay me instead. His face went from white to green. Mariana was full-on sobbing now, and I felt absolutely nothing.
No satisfaction. No anger.
Just emptiness where they used to live in my head. I'll be staying in town for a few weeks, I told my family. We have a lot to catch up on, but I have my own place now. My own life. I'm not the Helena you knew. I'm better. As I walked out, I heard my father's voice boom behind me, telling Ricardo to get out of his house before he threw him out physically. Heard my mother telling Mariana she was dead to this family. Heard my sister laughing through tears, saying something about karma. I walked to my car, designer heels clicking on marble floors, and I felt light.
Free.
Powerful. The girl who almost married for love was gone. The woman who built an empire from betrayal was here. And she was never looking back. 3 weeks later, Ricardo's company went bankrupt. Turns out without my family's connections, which he'd been banking on, his business couldn't survive. He'd made promises to investors using my family's reputation. When word got out about what he did, those bridges burned fast. He lost everything. His company, his apartment, his reputation. Mariana's life imploded too. She worked in marketing, and her biggest clients were connected to my family. Once the story spread, and trust me, it spread like wildfire, she couldn't find work anywhere in our industry. Last I heard, she moved to another state. Started over with nothing. Just like she deserved. As for me, I opened 2 more stores. Expanded internationally. Got invited to Fashion Week. Built something I'm genuinely proud of. And 6 months after that dinner, I met someone. Someone kind. Someone honest. Someone who didn't care about my money, because he had his own. Someone who loved me for the woman I became, not the naive girl I used to be. His name is Lucas. He owns a tech startup. We met at a business conference. He had no idea about my past until I told him months later. And when I did, he held my hand and said, "Thank God you walked away. Otherwise, I never would have met you." That's when I knew I'd truly healed. When I could look at the worst thing that ever happened to me and feel grateful. Not grateful it happened, but grateful I survived it. Grateful I chose myself. Grateful I disappeared and found the person I was always meant to be. My name is Helena Duarte. I'm the bride who vanished. The woman who rose from the ashes of a betrayal so calculated it should have destroyed me. But here's what Ricardo and Mariana never understood. You can't destroy someone who's already decided to rebuild herself. The real plot twist? The one that keeps me smiling even now? It's that they thought they were playing me. Thought they were so smart. So clever. But while they were scheming about my family's money, I was sitting on a fortune they never knew existed. While they were planning their secret future, I was building a real one. And while they thought I was too naive to see the truth, I saw everything. I just chose to walk away instead of fighting for scraps. They wanted to use me as a stepping stone to wealth. Instead, they became the reason I built an empire. They thought abandoning me at the altar would be my lowest moment. but it was actually the beginning of my highest flight. So thank you, Ricardo. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you for showing me exactly what I deserved, which was everything you could never be. Thank you for the betrayal that set me free. And thank you for underestimating me one last time. Because the bride who disappeared, she's never coming back. But the woman who took her place, she's unstoppable. And she's just getting started.